Series 10, Part 2, Strategies for Working with Children with FASD, created for the CCCY Professional Development Series online by Colette Sylvester. People living with fetal alcohol know a lot, but the problem lies in their ability to access and execute what they know, which is super frustrating for everyone. In Series 10, Part 1, Supporting the Many Faces of FASD, we explored how important structure, routine, and consistency are to the child with FASD. Within a universal approach to caring for and teaching all children, these three core elements are important for every child's success. Therefore, setting up your Center for Children and Youth should revolve around these key principles. It is simply good practice. In this final series on FASD, we will explore specific strategies to support children with FASD based on developmental stages. Although each child diagnosed with an alcohol-related neurological condition will be different, there are some similar traits. In this series, we will review some of these: sensory integration disorders, executive functioning deficits, trauma, ADHD, and defiance. We will explore strategies on how to remain calm in the face of difficult situations. Following this series, I recommend that you go back and review previous learning series to support you in these key areas. Reviewing specific strategies in these series will also help you apply the tools you've gained to support all children. The learning outcomes for this series are to explore strategies to rethink the way you discipline through redirection and reteaching, what you need to know, sensory integration and executive functioning, identifying strategies to remain calm as a caregiver, and finally, discovering age-specific strategies for children with FASD. According to Lussier-Ring, children, youth, and adults diagnosed with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder may look and talk at a level that is appropriate to their age. This is why it can be so difficult and frustrating when dealing with discipline issues. There is a tendency to believe that they understand a good lecture from an authority and move on. It is most certainly going to be ineffective if approached in this manner. Keep in mind that traditional behavior management techniques like timeouts are going to be completely ineffective with a child with FASD. Instead, focus on having clear and consistent rules that are posted visually and reviewed daily. Next, keep your voice calm and quiet when dealing with challenging behavior. Children with FASD will often imitate the behavior that they see around them. So, act in the way you want them to behave, and they will model after you. Remember, what children see, children do. Modeling is powerful for these children and adolescents. This modeling is also another example of universal design. Modeling expected behavior in difficult situations and talking out loud about how you're going to solve a problem is going to be beneficial for all children and youth, not just those with FASD. Honesty is a very abstract concept for many children with FASD. Because memory deficits are common, the way that children remember an incident will often be incorrect. However, they will make up the facts or easily be led astray by misleading questions. They will most certainly attempt to tell you what you want to hear and aim to please you. Try to keep in mind that they are not lying to be deviant. Make the punishment fit the crime. This is also very important for children with FASD. If a child writes all over a table, then the immediate consequence is that they clean the writing off the table. If they kick someone during a game, the consequence would be watching the game from the side. When the child is back to a calm and regulated state, you could review the rules of play within the form of a social story before they go back to join. Contrarily, taking away a field trip that was scheduled for the next day and completely unrelated to the adverse behavior will have no impact. Determining the function of their behavior is also important. Are they seeking your attention? Are they seeking escape because something is too hard? Are they seeking tangible items or preferred activities? Allow them to find positive ways to get your attention and reward them instantly if that's what they're looking for. Both consequences and rewards should be administered immediately. Collecting stickers for 5 days to earn a trip to something will have no impact on supporting positive behavior unless getting the sticker motivates them. Try to ignore negative attention-seeking behaviors, as you are only reinforcing the behavior if you acknowledge it. For example, acknowledging them for using good manners or helping them with cleanup is more likely going to be effective in reinforcing good manners and helping cleaning up than reprimanding them for not saying thank you or refusing to help. There's often behavior, our misinterpretation, and what the accurate interpretation is for FASD. So here we're going to review what we see, what we think, and what's really going on. And this has been adapted from the Edmonton and Area Fetal Alcohol Network. Non-compliance, or not obeying the rules. What we think is that they're doing it on purpose, that they're seeking attention, that they're being stubborn. What's really going on is that they may be having difficulty translating verbal directions into action, or they don't understand. What we see is repeatedly making the same mistakes. What we think is that they're doing it on purpose, that they're being manipulative, and what's really going on is that they cannot link cause to effect. They do not see similarities, and they really do have difficulty generalizing from one event to the other. Next, what we see. They are often late. What we think is that they're lazy or slow, that they have poor parenting, or that they're doing it on purpose. And what's really going on is that they cannot understand the abstract concept of time, and they need assistance getting organized. What we see is not sitting still. What we think is that they're seeking attention, they're bothering others, or they're doing it on purpose. What's really going on is that this is neurologically based need to move while learning and thinking and processing is occurring. Or it could be sensory overload. What we see as poor social judgment, what we think is that poor parenting, that they've been abused, or that they're doing it on purpose. What's really going on is that they're not able to interpret social cues from peers and that they don't know what to do in social situations. Next, being overly physical is something that we might see. What we think is that they're doing it to bother people or that they're being deviant. What's really going on is that they could be hyper or hyposensitive to touch and that they really do not understand social boundaries, so they need to be taught. Finally, what we see is an unwillingness to work independently, and we think it's because of poor parenting, that they're doing it on purpose or learned helplessness. What's really going on is it could be chronic health problems and that they can't translate verbal directions into action. Having sensory-rich activities and play areas in your center is important for all children and also fits within a universal approach. However, children with FASD may need more specialized or targeted sensory interventions. If you suspect that a child has significant sensory integration difficulties, then speak with your family support worker and discuss the possibility of contacting your local health unit to request a sensory profile by an occupational therapist for the child you're concerned about. It may mean a trip to the local health unit with mom and dad or mom and child. The information to support programming for the individual can change their ability to regulate themselves within your play-based environment and also give valuable information to the parent and perhaps the school community. Remember that children can be either hyper, too much, or hyposensitive to the following senses, and a hyper in some areas and hypo in others. So this will definitely impact the ways you can help them stay regulated and learn to regulate themselves. In review from our second series on supporting sensory regulation, these are the following categories of our senses. Sight, things can be too bright or too cluttered. Sound, things can be too loud. Taste, where they're sensitive to spices and textures. Touch, where they either avoid or seek different textures. vestibular, which is their sense of balance and a need to swing and spin, and finally proprioceptive, and this is that seeking of input into muscles or joints. A peaceful place or quiet zone. Ensure that there is a quiet or peaceful place within the center where a child can go to feel safe and secure like a cocoon. Items like fiber optic lights, lava lamps, hammock swings, exercise balls, small canisters with cotton balls with drops of essential oils to calm the senses, for example, lavender, and calming music earphones, to name a few. Sensory rooms are a fantastic tool for these children if staff have been trained to specifically support children within these types of environments. You must also have enough staff to work with one child in a sensory room while the other children are supervised by another caregiver. Alternatives to sensory rooms that are more cost-effective or are to set up sensory areas within pop-up tents, provide beanbag chairs or pillows as cost savers, or tunnels. See more strategies or watch the related podcast in Series 2 of the CCCY Professional Learning Series online. An uncluttered, organized play area or hangout space. As a teacher early in my career, I took pride in my bright, colorful bulletin boards that the children collaborated with me to create. In my opinion, they made the classroom come alive. However, knowing what I know now about children with sensory integration issues, I feel quite a bit different about my lively classroom. Be aware that rooms that are cluttered with too much stuff everywhere can be overwhelming to children with sensory integration issues. Soothing environments that are highly organized are important for them to feel relaxed. Even having bulletin boards that are organized and linear will be important. Ensure that the walls are not cluttered. Toys can be taken out to highlight them as a feature toy or focus toy for the day, and the other ones can be left on the shelves. Strategies to remain calm in the face of difficult situations as a caregiver. Pye and Associates suggested that the ARC model to support individuals diagnosed with FASD within a community: action, reflection, and communication. How can we support success in the face of adverse situations? What is the best practice for children with FASD? It is best practice to move forward with children within a strength-based approach. And this approach will help you build a positive relationship with a child and utilize the skills, aptitudes, and interests they have to support them. For example, a child that shows an interest in drawing can use drawing as a way to communicate their feelings, show their learning, and emotionally regulate. Encourage children and youth to talk about their strengths. To build upon the strengths of a child that loves drawing, ask them what other things they are good at. If an adolescent states, "I'm a good friend," then spend time talking about all the key personality traits a good friend has and create a drawing or poster about these traits. Empathetic, helpful, adventurous, brave, reliable, fun-loving. A good friend always has a smile. Do they make you feel better when you're sad? Do they forgive you if you've made a mistake? Here we move into age-specific strategies. Age-specific strategies for children with FASD. There are 4 main areas of development to consider: cognitive, physical and fine motor, and gross motor, language and communication, and social emotional. Early childhood, 0 to 2 years old. In the early childhood years, it will be important that children get early intervention support in the areas of speech and language and occupational therapy to address sensory regulation concerns and communication as soon as possible. This early support can make a tremendous difference to a child's success. Modeling speech through play is also an amazing way to support a child's language development within a universal approach. However, with specialized guidance and information from a speech-language pathologist, targeted intervention is recommended. Communication and teamwork is going to be necessary at every age and stage of development. Asking if there are speech assessments on file or sensory profiles from the family intaker work is recommended. Ages 3 to 5. Patience and understanding when approaching a child is essential. At this age, learning to support their ability to name their emotions and learn some early emotional regulation strategies. Ensure that consequences and rewards are immediate and logical, related to the behavior. Use social stories with real pictures of the child to teach about emotions and appropriate behavior. Some of the things you might see at this stage are problems learning and understanding language. Children are easily overstimulated. They have significant struggles with transitions and activity changes, hyperactivity, oppositional behaviors, and difficulty in learning through consequences. Ages 5 to 10. With a consistent, predictable routine and some environmental modifications, children can begin to develop their skills in regulating their emotions. Programs like the Zones of Regulation by Leah Keepers are great resources for staff to use to help support teaching emotional regulation skills. Within a supportive, supervised environment, children can make new friends and learn to ask for extra help if they need it. In my 20 years of experience as an educator, most of the children I have worked with that have an FASD diagnosis have the most difficulty learning to recognize when they need help. What you might see are struggles in school due to inattention, hyperactivity, language difficulties and behaviors, difficulties in planning and following routines, major sleep problems, and of course, sensory issues and environmental sensitivities. Ages 10 through 13. In a stable environment with consistent expectations, children can learn boundaries and how to manage behaviors. With your support as a caregiver, continue to develop and learn social skills and focus on regulating emotions. Programs like the Social Thinking Curriculum by Michelle Garcia Winner are extremely effective programs to use to support this process of social skill development and emotional regulation. What you might see at this stage are children with FASD are easily influenced by peers. Remember, they imitate and model what they see. Behavior issues escalate and may include theft, lying, and physical violence. There can be significant social difficulties, including underdeveloped regulation skills. Within a stable environment with consistent expectations, children can learn boundaries and how to manage their behaviors. They can also learn social skills and emotional regulation. Children at this age may want to get a job and have access to money. Having money becomes important to many youth at this stage. Dating becomes common amongst like-aged peers. What you might see: struggles with abstract concepts like money and time. And with support from a caregiver, they can discover their own unique talents. They can also continue to develop at their own pace. And in a supportive environment, they can continue to learn and grow and recognize their strengths. Ages 15 to 20. With support, youth can learn how to manage peer pressure and develop their own talents and develop abilities in the activities they love to do. Youth at this age can work at a job or volunteer to help others within their community. Some of the things you might see at this stage are involvement in sex, drugs, and alcohol, continued struggles with impulse control, planning, and understanding abstract concepts, escalating oppositional behaviors, depression, and other disorders may appear, and they reach legal adulthood, but they remain immature. And so very difficult to see the connection between impulse control, for example, and sexually promiscuous behavior and all of the things that can happen from that. Into adulthood, it is important to recognize that there may be mothers whom have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. These adults often appear more competent than they are. They may have extreme difficulty holding a job and may have had involvement with the legal system in the past. They may also have had or will have unintended pregnancies and become parents at an early age. These adults may continue with risky and or impulsive behaviors that have a tremendous impact on the children that they are raising. Addictions are many of the challenges these women face. So again, some of the things we may see are sex, drugs, and alcohol abuse and promiscuity, continued struggles with impulse control, planning, and understanding abstract concepts like managing time and money. You may see escalating oppositional behaviors, depression, and even though they are adults, they may be very immature and childlike. These women need support with a trauma-informed approach. Very, very important. And they will need consistent assistance with executive function skills like time management, money, and planning ahead. This will impact their abilities to pack lunches the night before, plan for a babysitter for upcoming events, and save enough money to pay rent. Being a model of interaction and supporting women in learning how to care and play with children to support healthy development is essential. Modeling is still going to be very effective. These women need a full, wrapped around support, and they may need this over the long term. In conclusion, structure, routine, and consistency are critical principles for the child and youth and adults with FASD. Using a universal approach to caring for and teaching all children utilizing these key principles will help you with every child's success. Combining these principles and the specific strategies outlined in this series will also help with a more targeted and specialized approach. Each child with an alcohol-related neurological condition is unique, but there are similar characteristics. In this series, we reviewed sensory integration disorders, executive functioning deficits, and ADHD. We explored specific strategies on how to remain calm in the face of adverse situations while using a strength-based approach. Ensure you go back and review more of the detailed strategies in our previous learning series. Reviewing these series will help you build upon the tools you've gained to support all children.